Hi, this is Jason with Concourse Hosting. Today I'm going to show you one of the key benefits of Tableau Server, that's sharing workbooks. There are 4 ways you can share your workbook visualizations using Tableau Server: projects, email subscriptions, embedding, and linking. Today I'll show you projects. Projects are a way to share workbook or data source content with any user that has a Tableau Server account. If a user does not have a Tableau Server account, you'll need to share your content via another method, and we'll cover those in subsequent videos. To begin, let's look at Tableau Server. I've opened up Tableau Server and into a sample site I call Larry. And you can see the 2 stock project folders in the site that we create for you when deploying your Tableau Server instance: Default and Sandbox. Projects contain the workbooks, workbook views, and data sources. Let's start with our discussion of projects with the topic of permissions. When we publish all the library workbooks and associated data sources to the default project, we set all users' permissions to allow you to access this project. When we create the Sandbox project, same thing goes. And anything you copy from default and put in Sandbox will inherit the permissions from the parent, aka default. This is good, as permissions in Tableau Server can be controlled in over 11 different places. It's pretty easy to get crossed up. At Concourse, we stick with the simplest approach to begin using the open accessed approach. A Tableau Server project by design, and anything you put in it will inherit permissions from its parent, or whence it came. Our example here is going to cover adding one project, and we're going to call it Live, or we could call it Live Workbooks, Production, whatever works for you, you could call it that. Again, one project that will contain your finished Tableau workbooks, so you'll be left with the default project, where you go to copy library items from, the Sandbox, where you go to develop, and then 3, the Live project, where your finished workbooks are accessed by your users. Let's go ahead and create the new project called Live. You'll need somebody with site administrator rights to do this, and in most cases, that's us. Simply go to Content, then click New Project, name it, and click Create. Again, I'll name this Live. You can add a description in this field if you want to, and it will show up in the project like this one does over here in default. So let's pause for a second, as I want to emphasize that projects are the main way you scale access to Tableau Server content through your organization. It's possible to create multiple projects within your Tableau Server site and create and design access to various groups of users throughout your organization who will be logging into Tableau Server. If you see that as a solution for your organization, please contact us first at Concourse, and we'll discuss how to scale projects, assign permissions, and create user groups to create a solution that works for you. When creating a new project, any workbook and data source you add to it will inherit the permissions from its parent. This is all good. It keeps everything the same going down the line. Let's go ahead and add our first workbook, then we'll take a quick peek at permissions so you get the gist of what I'm talking about. I'm going to go to my Sandbox project, and here's my workbook that I've finished developing. I want to move it to the Live folder so that any Tableau Server user who logs into Server can see the Live project and know that anything in this project folder is a Live workbook. I can check on the checkbox in the upper left corner and then click on the ... menu, and you'll see that I can simply choose to move this workbook over to another folder. But I want a little bit more control of the options I have, so I'm actually going to click Edit a Workbook. I'm going to go ahead and choose Save As, because I'm going to save a copy of this workbook that I've finished in Sandbox and save it over to the live project. So I've chosen live, and I'll name it the same thing as I've got here, fiscal year comparison. But I'm going to append it with live. I do that so that down the line I know this isn't another version published somewhere else with the same name. It's my live version of this workbook. And I've gone ahead and saved it to the live workbooks project folder. The Show Sheets as Tabs option gives me the ability to keep visible or hide any worksheets within the workbook I want to let the user see. And in this case, there are a few worksheets in the back end of my workbook that make it go, but I don't want anybody to see them, so I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this. Next, the option to embed password for data source. It's a good idea to check this box. What it does is embed the guest user credentials for the data source within the workbook, so that the user of this workbook doesn't have to enter his or her Tableau server credentials to actually work with it. There are times you might not want to use this or disable the guest user permissions, and those will be addressed in other videos about the other types of sharing. I'm going to embed and click Save. And there you have it. I'll click Done and then go back to my home page, and you can see my live project with my published workbook. Anyone in my organization now with a Tableau server user account can log in and view this workbook within the live project. But let's consider permissions of our live project. We'll look at the ... menu again and choose permissions. Permissions for this folder, this project, are set to Publisher. That's the group permission we create from the start. Look in the upper right-hand corner, you can notice that content permissions in the project are set to be managed by the owner. That's, of course, whomever creates the project. Permissions of workbooks and data within the new project are inherited from the parent until the owner changes them. In our example, we're only adding one project so that we wind up with this 3-project process flow. The default, the sandbox, and the live. So I'm going to go ahead and click Locked on this option. So default permissions are going to roll all the way down the line. I'll go ahead and close this menu, and let's go in and look at the workbook. Just to show you the rabbit hole of permissions, we're going to take a peek at permissions here so you can see how this workbook has inherited permissions. And so here are all the different options that we can apply to this workbook. As soon as we start modifying this, it becomes a custom set of permissions for this workbook. So to tie all this together, that's why we encourage you to talk with us about your plan for scaling access. We want you to create your culture of visual analytics and help you use Tableau Server successfully to do it. I'm Jason, and thanks for watching. I'll be covering the other ways to share workbooks using Tableau Server in upcoming Tableau Server tip videos.